Hello, YouTube land. This is Brenton Son coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. I have an email from Arkansas. Now, this story here kind of caught my attention because it was from 1951. And back when people were just getting electricity in some of these areas and still had outhouses, no indoor plumbing, and it's kind of just a little, I guess, a story that kind of takes you back in history a tad. And you got to think back, this is World War II time, and I just really like the story. And this guy was, a young kid, and his little brother was even younger. So I really hope you like this story. It's a fascinating story. If anyone out there has a story they would like to share, you can contact me at brentonson@gmail.com. Just give me a description of your story and contact information, and I will get back to you. And if you want to contribute to this channel to help me through the next month or so, as this slump that we've had has been kind of extending on into toward the end of the summer, I guess, you can look in the description and there will be a link for PayPal Me. You can go there and contribute. Every contribution is appreciated very much. So let's just go, and I'll let Bill introduce himself to you. And I think you're going to like this one. It's a fascinating story from 1951. All right, YouTube land, we have someone who had sent me an email. I really like this story. It's one of these stories from the 50s, and when people still had outhouses, and some people were just getting electricity and things like that. So it's kind of one of those eclectic stories that I just really love this kind of thing. It's a nostalgic thing for me. And this fellow's name is Bill Cunningham, and he goes by Country Bill Cunningham. And he's a kind of a singer, karaoke type fella from the area in Arkansas that he's from. And this story, you're just really going to love it. So anyway, Bill, if you would, I'd like for you to kind of give an introduction to yourself and tell whatever you want to tell about yourself, and we'll go to your story from there.
Okay, my name is Bill Cunningham. I do karaoke. I'm a karaoke DJ at the Newark, California Moose Lodge on Friday nights. And all my karaoke people call me Country Bill because I do mostly country. But I grew up in southeast Arkansas. I was born in June 18th, 1939, in Lake Village, Arkansas. It's a town that's 10 miles from the Mississippi River. And it's in the Mississippi Delta area. And we lived on Highway 82 east of Lake Village. Highway 82 would take you into Texarkana if you kept going in that direction. But this was in the summer of 1951. I was 11 and my brother was 6. And he needed to use the outhouse, and we'd only had electricity for about a month. So we left the kitchen light on in the kitchen and the back door open, and Dad had fenced in the backyard to put in a garden. He put in a 6-foot high chicken wire fence, and the outhouse was in the back of the fence in the garden. And I took a flashlight and we went out to the outhouse. Because him being 6, he didn't like to go in the outhouse at night by himself. But anyway, I'm looking at a catalog that we had in the outhouses, we used for paper, and I caught a movement out of the corner of my eye beside the crack in the door, and I seen this big, tall, hairy creature leave the area of the chicken house that was in the backyard and start across the backyard toward the light shining out in the yard through the back door. And I stood up and switched that flashlight off, and I asked my brother, I said, Jim, do you see what I see? And he looked and said, yes. And I knew what I was looking at was not a gorilla and not a bear. This thing stood head and shoulders above the 6-foot high fence. It stood straight up like a person, and his arms hung down from his shoulders like a person's does. And we watched this thing for about 2 minutes or so. It was about 40 or 50 feet from us, and he was between us and the house. And that scared us to death. That scared us to death because we wondered, how are we going to get out of here and get back in the house without getting killed? But anyway, he stood there for about 2 minutes, and he turned his back to us, and he went back in the direction that he came and disappeared out of our sight by the chicken house. And my brother and I thought he was maybe going to go in the back door because the door was open and the light on in the kitchen, but he didn't. So I asked my brother, I said, are you through? And he said, yes. I said, well, we better get out of here. That thing maybe is going to come in around behind us, and he'll go through this chicken wire fence like it's paper as big as he is. And he had hair covered his whole body. He looked like he weighed at least 450, maybe 500 pounds. He was about 8 foot tall. And hair, you know, like I said, covering his whole body. But anyway, we opened the door, slipped through the garden, threw the gate open, ran up on the back porch. And when we got to the back door, we heard a growl from the direction of the chicken house. And we shut the back door and bolted it, went to the front room, and we told Dad about it. He could see how excited we were, and we told him what we seen. So Daddy took the flashlight and his gun and went outside, and then my brother and I went with him. And we searched the whole yard over. We searched everywhere, but we didn't find or see anything. And we found no footprints because our yard was all grass. And so we went back in the house and kind of a little bit worried about going to sleep that night, but finally fell asleep. A few days went by, and being kids, we forgot all about it. And there was a barn a quarter mile from our house, and we like to go down there and play. Sometimes we go down there after supper. So about 3 nights later, after supper, we went down to the barn. We were climbing the corral fence behind the barn, and we heard rustling up in the hayloft. And we looked, and something big, tall, and hairy stood up in the doorway of the hayloft. It was almost dark, but we could see him outlined. And so we got down off that fence and got home as quick as we could. And there was a black family named Smith lived where the barn was, and their oldest son, A.D. Smith, a couple of nights later, had been to town. And he had just left the intersection, walking down the highway toward home. About a quarter mile from the intersection is a road that went to the city dump. And then about 200 yards past the city dump road was a bridge over Little Lake Creek. A white man driving his truck to town, went over Little Lake Creek Bridge, passed the dump road, saw A.D. walking on the side of the road. He turned his truck around, stopped by A.D., and he said, boy, get in this truck and I'll take you home because I seen a big, tall, hairy creature standing in the edge of the woods by the road that went to the dump. He said, if you went by there, this thing would probably kill you. And that was unheard of for a white man in the 50s in Arkansas to give a black man a ride. But it scared him enough that what he's seen, that he stopped and gave a black man a ride home.
Right.
And that's the last 3 incidents that we knew about at that time. But then we seen a movie years later about a Bigfoot creature that lives in Falk, Arkansas. It's Fouke, and it's close to Texarkana.
Right.
And this Bigfoot creature, he said he always follows the creeks. And he very well could have followed the creeks and the bayous and came over in our neighborhood where we were for a little while and then went back home. But I never thought about it until later, but we had 4 dogs and they were outside and they had not come out, growled, barked, nothing. I guess they were too scared. And the chickens hadn't made any noise either, but usually when the chicken gets scared, they'll cackle or whatever, cluck but nothing had happened. And so from what me and my brother figured, that what we seen that night had to be a Bigfoot creature, and that's the only thing it could have been. I couldn't think of anything else it could have been at that time.
Right.
But he can tell you the same story I do because he's seen the same thing I did, and we didn't imagine it.
Right.
It was in our yard.
Right. Um, now
And that's it.
when the creature was standing there in the backyard, you said that you viewed it for about 2 minutes. Was this thing looking at the outhouse or was he looking at the house?
No, he was not looking at the outhouse. He was just, he had his left side to us and he was looking straight ahead toward the light. He was almost in the light, but not in it, but we could see him outlined real good.
Right.
And this was in the summer of 1951, and we were in the outhouse. And so, what are you going to smell when you're in the outhouse in the summertime?
Now hold on. Now, make sure you're speaking into your phone well, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So could you tell where it was looking though, or what it was doing for that extended time?
Well, the chicken house was to our right from where we were in the outhouse, and he started across the yard from the chicken house, so he had his left side to us, and he was walking toward the light shining through the back door.
Right.
And looking straight ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't turn his head left to look at the outhouse we were in, or turn his head right to look at the house. He was looking straight at the light he was headed to, but he didn't get into the light, but we could see him outlined really well because he was close to the light, but he was illuminated really good, so we could really see him real good. Looked like he had hair 3 or 4 inches covering his whole body.
Right.
And he was dark in color. But that being at night, he might have been brown, or dark brown or even black, but we couldn't tell for sure what color he really was. But
Yeah.
we could tell he was completely covered with hair.
Right. Did it have the typical kind of pointy head from a side view?
And kind of in the back.
Okay.
Kind of like a sloping forehead, but like a hump in the back of his head.
Right. Yeah.
Almost like a gorilla does, but a gorilla can't stand 8 foot high.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
The gorilla cannot stand 8 foot tall.
No. So do you think it was there basically scoping out the chickens?
I don't know what. Unless he was attracted by the light that we left on in the kitchen, I don't know why he was there or why he was in our yard.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you think about it,
if he'd have got in the chicken house, we would have heard the chickens carrying on something awful. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So back then, you said you just had gotten electric, so this thing may not have seen lights at night much.
That's true. Now prior to that, we used kerosene lamps.
Right.
And we burned wood in the heater, and Mama had a wood cook stove with a warming closet up on the top of the stove, to keep stuff warm in. But we used wood for cooking and wood for heat.
Right.
And kerosene lamps for light. And we had a pump in the yard and an outhouse.
Yeah.
And then on a Saturday when we'd take a bath to go to town, we'd pump water in the pump and heat it on the stove, and we took a bath in a tin tub. We didn't have indoor plumbing or indoor toilet.
Right. That's amazing. That was back in the good old days, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
When people lived, in a more primitive type way.
Well, we didn't have a car. We didn't have a car until I was 13. I was 11 at that time, and we walked a mile and a half to town to, shop and carry your groceries home.
Right. Wow. That's good old days, then. Now when you went to the barn, and this thing was basically
up in the hayloft. So we figured he was up in the hayloft to sleep up there.
Wow, that's incredible. So this thing was basically using an existing barn as shelter, sleeping in the hay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Did you and your brother ever go back to that barn?
Oh yeah. Yes, we did. Long as we lived there, we played in that barn. And like I said, being kids, we get scared for a day or two, and then it's forgotten.
Yeah.
But we didn't forget what we seen that night.
Right. Do you ever remember anything like coming up missing with your animals or any of your chickens?
No.
You don't.
We didn't have any chickens missing or any animals missing. The only thing we had was we had 4 dogs and we had chickens. That's all we had.
Right. Yeah. Well, it sounds like to me that he was just scoping the place out, and so I mean, you all were fortunate, I guess, because the story that came along later with the Falk case, and where you lived in the Delta region, yeah, I believe you're right. I think they were traveling up and down those rivers,
creeks and bayous.
Yeah.
Creeks and the bayous and the rivers and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
And I figured the reason why he was out at the city dump was probably out there scrounging around for something to eat.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Wow. To me, I think it's a very good, interesting encounter for sure. I love the old time cases, when someone remembers back to a different time period, and so, wow. So from then on, whenever you are out in the woods and things like that, do you kind of look around now and just wonder if you might see one again?
Well, we thought about that, for quite some time after the encounter and everything. And one day we had a bear cub get up underneath our house. Boy, the dogs, I mean, they were giving it whatever, barking, and the little bear cub was screeching and, hollering and stuff. And we finally got the dogs away, and the bear cub got out and went down along the creek and back in the pasture. And there was a creek that ran alongside of our house. It went from the highway all the way back to the woods, back there behind our house. And my brother, we went back there to see where the bear cub had went. Yeah. We found his tracks, and then we found bigger tracks, and we thought, oh boy, we better get out of here because that's Mama. If she catches us, we're dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a little black bear cub.
Right. Well, anyway, I like that. I like that encounter. It's a very interesting encounter. It sounded like you had some in your area. Whether it was the same one or not, I guess we can't know. But
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We figured it was just a fog monster. Maybe they'd come down in our area at that time.
Yeah.
So that movie came out in 1972. Now that was in 51.
Right. Yeah.
So that was what?
That was several
19 years.
Yeah.
19 years difference.
Yeah.
21 years or something like that.
Right. Now, what did you all call it? Because the name Bigfoot didn't really surface until a lot later. So what were you?
I know. Well, I don't remember what it was called at that time, unless it was Sasquatch or whatever. But they got different names all over the whole country. They got skunk ape, they got Sasquatch, they got Bigfoot.
Right.
They're named by different things out throughout the country, and even in Europe, overseas.
Right.
They have names for them over there too.
So you don't remember what it was called back then, but you kind of knew what it was.
Not really.
Had you heard of this kind of creature before when you were a kid? When you saw it?
We'd heard rumors about them finding footprints and stuff, but that's all we knew. They find big 15, 16-inch footprints.
Right.
Bare footprints with 5 toes.
Yeah. Make sure you're speaking into your phone again.
Okay.
You get real muffled out there a few times.
Alrighty.
So you basically had heard of this thing, and you can't really remember what it was called. See, sometimes down in the south they called them boogers. They called them Some people call them no heads or no necks, or even catamounts.
That's another thing. This thing looked like its head set right down on his shoulders, like he had no neck.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Couldn't really see a neck because he had big shoulders, and his head looked like it just set right down on his shoulders because we couldn't see no neck at all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's reason why people sometimes call them no necks, or they call them no heads, because that could look like a neck without a head on it. You know.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, right.
You know, I mean, in Kentucky here, they call them wild men of Kentucky. They just call them wild men. You know, and
is that where you from? Is Kentucky?
That's where I'm at. Yeah, and here.
That's where you're at. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. And the old stories, you know, you could find in the papers and stuff, they called him a wild man, like it was just some kind of wild guy, you know, out in the forest, you know.
Right, right.
But Daniel Boone, now when he was in Kentucky here, he had supposedly shot and killed one. They called it a Yahoo, and and I don't know what ever happened to the body, you know, or what have you. I think they buried it at some point. But yeah, he encountered one and killed it, and that's kind of a famous story here, you know.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because, you know, well, we call him Bigfoot or Sasquatch and stuff like that, but that name wasn't really around until a lot later, when, you know, the Patterson-Gimlin stuff came out around that time period, and so it's interesting to think about what you all had called it, but you had heard of this type thing before.
Yeah. And you know, the abominable snowman over in the Himalayas, I guess it's pretty much the same thing, but it's lives in a snowy region over there in the Himalayan mountains. That's why it's called the abominable snowman.
Yeah, yeah. So they definitely have been around for a long time. That's for sure. Well, Mr.
Now they said now what they wonder why they've never found they found footprints, but they've never found a skeleton of one. They've never found a dead one. They've never been able to capture one or to kill one. But you don't find any dead bears or skeletons of bears or wolves or anything in the woods either.
Well, they have killed them. I mean, Daniel Boone killed one. So
he did?
Yeah, he killed one. And
no kidding! I didn't know about that.
Yeah. I mean, there's stories like that out there, but they would bury the thing and do something with it. And nowadays, when one gets killed, there's someone that comes along in a big black SUV and they collect it up and tell you to shut up. And I've known of people that here. There's one case here in Kentucky where they found one dead on a farm. And the officials showed up, collected the body up from the farmer, and they shipped it to Frankfurt. They shipped it to Frankfurt, and you know, who knows what happened from there? But you know, these people don't want to come out and say because they can't prove it. Once the you know, they should have.
Why do they want to keep everything so hush hush for? I mean, you know.
Well, I guess they don't want people panicking.
Really wonder and want to know.
Yeah, I know. I think it would be that people wouldn't want to go camping, and then there'd be a lot of people wanting to go out and try to find them and, you know, shoot them. Or something, I guess is the only thing I can think of. But if people
I've got a grandson. I've got a grandson that is obsessed with trying to find Bigfoot.
Yeah.
He goes camping and he goes tromping through the woods to see if he can find a Bigfoot. But I told him, I said, son, look, it's more apt for him to find you than you finding him.
Right, yeah.
I said, just go set up your camp close to a game trail and be quiet. And, you know, one might come by on that game trail. You never know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. If you pay attention,
I think the Bigfoot is a shy creature. I really do.
Yeah. Or like when I was camping. Now, look, when I went camping down at Dale Hollow, and the guy that was with me camping, he wasn't paying attention, but there was tree snaps. There was like a tree fell over a couple different times and things like that. I started paying attention, thinking, hey, there's something up there, because I know I collect these stories so much that I know what to listen for.
They throw rocks.
They were doing that
sticks.
to us while we were fishing. You know, rocks kept going into the water, you know, and they were throwing acorns at us and things. And so sometimes you got something around and you're just not paying attention. You're trying to rationalize it away. And but I believe if you go camping, if you pay attention, if you camped enough, you would end up probably having an encounter if you were looking for it.
Yeah.
But we don't look.
Well, I watched that movie, that TV show all the time, Finding Bigfoot. Now, the way they do, when they're out there screaming and hollering and beating sticks on trees and stuff like that, if Bigfoot is a shy creature, he's probably going to be as far away from them people as he can get.
Right.
You know.
Right. Yeah. And plus, I think a lot of times they can sneak right up on you and you not even see them because they're very, very stealthy. I think they're putting themselves in danger. You know, sometimes the way they're doing it, because when you make a call, you don't know what you're saying. You know, you can make a call that says, "I'm challenging you." You know, depending on how they might interpret it different. You know, and so you know. You know, there's people that come up missing in these state parks, and you kind of wonder, you know, what it might be that's taking, you know, these people. That there's just too many that come up missing, and so that might be part of the reason there's cover up too, you know, and
you know, when they go to the town hall meetings and everything, and they talk to people, if anybody's had an encounter with a Bigfoot or seen one or had an encounter or anything, so when they get explanations about how big this thing was or how big its stride was or everything, and they try to duplicate that, they can't do it.
Right.
You know, like, oh, he crossed the road in 3 steps.
Right.
So they go out there and they try to do that, and they can't do it because they don't have the stride that Bigfoot's got.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely
him being 8 and 9 foot tall, you know.
Right. Yeah. They're amazing creatures, that's for sure.
Oh yeah.
Well, I thank you for coming and telling your story, Mr. Cunningham.
Okay.
And you know, if you hear of any more stories down in your area, email me and come tell me.
Okay. All right, I will do that.
I appreciate it. And anyway, I think that your story is really neat because of the era that it came from, you know, and the time period. That that was back during World War II time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
To me, I don't know. I'm just kind of a little bit of a history person, so thinking back to the 1951, that just is extremely cool for me to ponder that idea. But thank you, Mr. Cunningham. I appreciate it. And And
all right.
Email me if you hear anything else in your area.
Okay, will do. I got your email on my contacts.
All right, and save my number there too.
All right.
All right, everybody out there in YouTube land, I hope you enjoyed that. If anyone has a story they want to share with me, you can contact me at brentonson@gmail.com. If you want to make a contribution, you can go to the description below to PayPal me, and I appreciate everything. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you all on the next video. Bye.